Once upon a time, in a small mountain town tucked between pine-dark ridges and slow white clouds, there lived an old carpenter. He had worked there as long as anyone could remember. His beard was snowing with age, his hands were scarred and split like weathered bark, his voice seldom used. But people trusted him the way they trusted the rising of the sun, quietly, without debate. He had built everything, from doors that opened to new lives, to coffins that closed the final chapter. He had seen the cradle and the grave, and supplied wood to both. He lived simply. He woke early, drank tea without sugar, and went to the workshop before the town had even rolled its first yawn. The sound of his chisel and his patience was a sound the town had grown up with. 40 years passed like that. Not loudly, not dramatically, just steadily, the way seasons become decades without asking permission. One afternoon, his employer, who had also aged in the shadow of mountains and sawdust, approached him. "You have served enough," he said. "You can finally retire." The carpenter did not smile, but his shoulders loosened, as though a hidden load had shifted. He was indeed tired, not in anger, but in the deep way trees are tired after carrying winter after winter. He nodded once. Retirement had been a silent hope sitting at the back of his ribs for years. But before he could leave, the boss made one final request. "Build me one more house," he said gently. "Just one. After that, you go." The carpenter hesitated. His heart, which once pulsed with pride over every angle and joint, now felt like an exhausted drum. But out of habit, not affection, he agreed. He returned to the workbench, not with devotion, but with the dull obedience of someone already looking past the finish line. His spirit was no longer in the work. He used cheaper wood, knowing exactly where it would warp in time. He rushed the frame, ignoring the whisper of the grain. Corners that once would have been caressed into perfection were now cut without shame. The polish was uneven, the hinges slightly misaligned. None of it screamed failure, but all of it whispered neglect. He did not build with his old religion of precision. He wanted only to finish, to put the final nail in a career and walk out. Weeks later, when the last board was hammered and the door creaked closed, not with pride but with fatigue, the carpenter sighed with relief. It was done, the last obligation. He wiped his hands as if wiping off 40 years of duty. His employer came to see the house. He walked through the room slowly, touching the banister, running fingers along walls, stepping with a face that revealed nothing. The carpenter braced for neither praise nor criticism, only for release. When they stepped outside, the boss reached into his coat and took out a small wooden box. He placed it in the carpenter's palm. "Open it," he said. Inside was a silver key, heavy, elegant, gleaming in the afternoon light. "This house," the boss said softly, "is my gift to you for all your years of work. You deserve to live in something you built with your own hands." The world stopped. The carpenter's throat closed. The key dug into his palm, suddenly unbearably heavy. He looked back at the house, the crooked lines, the shortcuts, the silent betrayals of craftsmanship. He had not merely built carelessly, he had built carelessly for himself. Every corner he rushed would now surround him. Every shortcut would now shape his daily life. Each morning he would wake under the weight of his own negligence. He had built his own consequence. He felt something sink in his chest. Not shame alone, but realization. The boss did not scold him. He did not need to. The carpenter understood with a clarity sharper than any chisel. He moved into the house, and he lived inside the echo of his own choices. He never spoke much about it, but the lesson nailed itself into him deeper than oak. The world always finds a way to return our own craftsmanship back to us. After retirement, when neighbors asked him to take on small projects, fix a fence, shape a cradle, carve an arch, he built them as though he were building for his own bones. He sanded edges others would never see. He reinforced joints no eye would judge, because he finally understood You are never building for them. The work you deliver to the world is a mirror that will one day be turned toward you. Every nail is a promise to yourself. Every careless act becomes a future room you must live in. Every standard you relax becomes a compromise in your own roof. Every integrity you uphold becomes a shelter over your future head. You see, in life, in your life, everything you build, in work, in love, in habits, in relationships, in character, you end up living inside of it. The life you wake up to is the house you built with your previous choices. There are no external carpenters secretly constructing your fate. You are manufacturing the beams and walls of your future with today's discipline or today's neglect. If you love half-heartedly, you will live inside half-warm relationships later. If you work lazily, you will live inside the poverty of your own shortcuts. If you invest in yourself seriously, you will inhabit the peace of mastery later. If you betray your standards today, you will sleep under the ceiling of regret tomorrow. The carpenter learned too late what life had been trying to whisper all along. You do not build for others. You build the environment you yourself must one day inhabit. There is no escape from the construction of your own choices, so build well. Build your work as if your future self will walk its floors, because he will. Build your relationships as if you must later breathe their air, because you will. Build your character as if its walls will someday be your only shelter, because they will. The carpenter never returned to the old workshop, but his wisdom spread silently across the town. People began to say, "Work as he now works," meaning, work as though you will one day live inside the results. That is the moral buried in his story like a beam under a floor. Whatever you send into the world eventually comes back as the house you live in. So build it well. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.